If you hang on to God when you're angry, when you're disappointed, when your heart feels distant, I think the storms actually fertilize the peace. I think peace gets bigger with storms. About 13 years ago now, Allison walked through this season with me. I went through just a really, 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 really dark season. And prior to that, I'd always been judgmental about women who struggled with depression. I just thought, oh, quit being such a baby. Go volunteer at a homeless shelter, quit being so narcissistic. But I lost two people who were very, very dear to me, and I had a cancer diagnosis. It all happened in a week. These two huge losses, and they thought I had brain cancer. Ended up not being brain cancer, but it was just it was a tough week. And the three together, back to back, just knocked the legs out from under me. And I would preach grace, but I live pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And all of a sudden, for the first time in my whole life, I couldn't pull myself up anymore. I lived by myself, out in this little cottage in the country. And I was so weak. And I didn't even have the strength to be angry at God. It was just such overwhelming, sad darkness. And God spoke to me at the very beginning, and he said, you've been running scared your whole life. And so I'm going to go to the basement with you, that place you've avoided your whole life. And I'm going to sit there with you in the dark until fear doesn't own you anymore. And it was about 6 months of hard. I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I mean, truly couldn't physically get out of bed without speaking the name Jesus. And of course, life goes on. You still have responsibilities, you still have commitment, you still have to make a living. And he was not just present, he was so patient and so kind. And I was like a newborn baby in the faith. I'd known Jesus forever, and here I was in this crisis of faith, and I realized there's a corner of my heart that's an emotional agnostic. There is still a corner of me that's afraid God isn't enough, that I'll die if I don't have somebody with skin on. And instead of spanking me or chastising me or giving me a lesson, he just loved me. And he loved me so hard and so tangibly. And he totally changed the topography of my heart. There will be deep ends.
Yeah, right.
But I know I can stand and I won't drown. And I think that's the thing about storms, is once you do get to where the water's calm again, you go, he was with me the whole time.
Yes.
He was with me, and you go, well, okay.
All right.
Right.
Okay. It's like, I don't think we're really afraid of the storm. I think we're afraid of being alone.
And God's
when
not
you
going to
go,
leave you.
Never.
That's right.
Never,
He's not
ever,
gonna leave
ever,
you.
never.
And he can handle it.
He can handle it.
When you said you were mad at God, I was furious when my boy died. 6 months old, I rushed him to the hospital, and he had a fever. The doctor said it was an ear infection, and I presented him to the nurse, Mary Bridge Children's Hospital, Tacoma, Washington. He was 6 months old, and I put him on the counter, and she started screaming code blue because he was dead. He had spinal meningitis.
Oh, my goodness.
That's my special need, boys. That's the beginning of his story, Graham. And I went from doing everything I could right. I was that girl that was raised in church. I wanted to do right, but I was a little wild, And I wanted to be the leader Christian, and I had really kind of gotten my life to the place where now I was married and I had these two boys, and my husband was the evangelist. And that moment where you're kind of getting A's and everything, and then this kid of mine gets this ear infection, and it wasn't an ear infection. So there he is. He's got the doctors working on him. It's just like in the movies. you know, crash carts and people are screaming and I'm backing up and I'm looking on and they're cutting down and jamming the thing. Little baby, and he's dead. And they're working on him, you know. Now, we went through that experience. They gave no hope. They said he'd never walk, never talk. He'd be blind, spastic. And it was a journey. And I was beyond furious with God. And I spent not a week, not a month. Man, it could have been a decade. I mean, I was furious. How could God stick me with this situation? You know, you don't have the perfect Christmas card anymore. You don't have the perfect. And I discovered a journey of faith.
Yes, yes.
Now, here's the deal. God wasn't mad at me.
Oh, praise you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
He wasn't mad at me,
That's
Lisa.
right.
He was never mad at me.
Yeah.
My little boy had spinal meningitis.
Yep.
That wasn't because he forgot about me
Yeah.
or he didn't know where I was. I had to work through all that theology all over again. And boy, I acted out. I was mad. But see, that's the wonderful thing about this book.
That's right.
Is that God's word never lets us down.
That's right.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe today and you'll never miss a new upload.
And don't forget to check out our Better Together shop. Thanks for being a part of our community.